your crap will fight to get down the toilet. And he meant it. And he says, you guys are so lazy, you stink. Just get out of here. Get out of my way. You're in my way now. Today on In the Woodyard, we're talking about something way more valuable than money. Here we go. So today we're going to talk about something my dad gave me and my two brothers and my sister a long time ago. Well, my mom also. It came from our parents. Something that you cannot put a price on. Something that either you have or you don't. Something that is instilled in you when you're young. Something that today's world has a hard time comprehending, dealing with, and passing on. In today's world, a lot of kids avoid this, but it's probably the most valuable thing you can get as a child from your parents. Now, some people would say, oh, you know, it's an inheritance. It's 1,000 acres of land. It's a business. Money that your parents squirreled away and let build and turned into millions of dollars. It's none of that. None of that. That is not what is valuable. To me, this is me, hopefully maybe some of you, one of the most valuable things I got from my dad was my work ethic. You cannot put a price on that. It's more valuable than money because it will last your whole life. You know the old saying, a lot of you have heard it, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach him how to fish, he'll survive his whole life and he'll feed himself and his family for generations possibly. And work ethic is one of those things that goes right in hand with that. Because if you were raised in a way where you were given everything, you have no incentive. You don't know how to provide for yourself or your family or your children. If you were forced into finding your own way, forced to earn your own money, forced to learn the value of hard work without being given everything, handed to you on a silver platter, silver spoon, whatever you want to call it. If you were given the gift of being able to look at something and knowing in your mind you can overcome it, something difficult, something big, something hard, something that takes a lot of work, something that takes a lot of effort. If you were just always given money to go play, or given money to go to school, given money to go on vacations, given money to buy all the toys and things that everybody would like to have, and there's nothing wrong with gifting and giving, nothing wrong with it at all. But if you do too much of it, especially with your kids, they will become lazy. They will become more dependent on you. And you will start something that you cannot end. They will become worthless to themselves, worthless to their family, worthless to society. If you can instill in someone a work ethic, that is one of the best gifts you can give them. To have the mindset, like I said, that you can look at something and say, I can do that. I can figure that out. Or I will figure that out. The positive mental attitude of knowing that doing something big can happen. My dad always used to tell me, doesn't matter what you decide to do in life, do it the best you can. And if you do it the best you can and find ways to be better than others, there will always be room for another one of whatever you want to be. If you can choose to be the best or decide to be the best or work to be the best that you can at a particular thing. When I was in high school, I was told I was supposed to go into engineering. Apparently I was good with that stuff. That's what the counselors and teachers said, oh, you should be an engineer. But I wasn't really interested in that. I wanted to be a photographer. That's what I really wanted to do. And my dad said, then do it. But if you're going to do it right. Be the best you can be. There's always going to be room for another one if you're good. If you strive to be better than everybody else and be at the top and compete with the best people there are in whatever you do in life. Things in life itself, are difficult. Life is not easy. Life is a series of ups and downs. And if it wasn't that way, if life was smooth sailing, everything is golden, everything is great, money just comes my way because I'm here breathing, that's not normal. And a lot of you, especially in today's society, might look at someone either on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or whatever it is you're on, and you see the person that you think, oh, they've got the perfect life. They're so lucky. I wish I was like them. I wish I could be that lucky. You have no clue, first of all, what it took for them to get there, or if they even did anything to get there. You know, when you look at stuff, when people post stuff, especially in some of the social media, and all you see is brand new this, brand new that, trips here, going out there, eating these fancy meals. Look at the fancy clothes, look at the fancy car, look at the fancy house, look at all the stuff. Look at the vacations we're on all around the world. That's not normal. And more than likely, they're not showing you the crap it took to get there. Because to get to a high place requires a lot of other stuff that you don't see. If you have a work ethic, you can look at it and not be afraid. Because fear, overcoming your fear, goes hand in hand with work ethic. If you have the positive mental attitude and to look at fear and think, I can figure that out. Yeah, it might be a little scary, but you'll figure it out. You'll work your way through it. Our dad always used to tell us, I'm going to work you guys so hard that your crap will fight to get down the toilet. And he meant it. We did a lot of stuff as a kid, and I've mentioned this before in other videos, that when we split wood, it was in the 70s. We were the wood splitters. We had a splitting maul. It wasn't even a splitting maul, it was a railroad hammer. It's the long skinny ones for driving railroad spikes, because my dad was too cheap to go buy an actual splitting maul. And some wore out old nasty mushroomed wedges. And because elm trees were dying because of Dutch elm disease, that's the wood we got because it was free. And we were the wood splitters. And if you split elm, you know it's like splitting cable. That's the kind of wood we split all the time. We would have wedges driven in from the top, wedges in on the bottom, wedges in on the side. I can remember having all the wedges in one piece of wood. We couldn't get it out. So then you got to get a hatchet out. You got to start chopping on all those stringiness to try to pry it apart somehow, or take a pry bar and try to pry a crowbar we used actually. I remember using a crowbar a couple times, just trying to pry the wedge out of one piece, and doing it for, it seemed like hours. But we split all the wood. We started burning wood when I was 7 years old, I want to say. 6 or 7, right in there, is when we started burning wood. So for me, that was 56 years ago that I started splitting wood. We were the splitters. And I remember times we would complain. We would be on a project with our dad, whether it was splitting wood, or a lot of times we were clearing land and we were chopping down little trees and pulling trees out with a tractor. We had a kind of a river bottom area where there was really good soil, and he's trying to clear it so that we could plant corn and then plant alfalfa. And it was beautiful, beautiful farm ground. And one time we had been out in the sun all day long. Well, actually one day, it was like 4 or 5 days in a row, and we had to get it done. And my dad worked shift work, so he'd either have his mornings available or his afternoons available. We were expected to be there when he was home. And it was one of those days where it was 80, 90 degrees and it was hot. I remember being miserably hot, being thirsty, and we wanted to go swimming. And so after about the 3rd or 4th day, we were whining, Dad, can we quit and go swimming? He would say, no, we're not done yet. We still got to get this done. We're going to go until it's dark. And then we'd whine and complain some more. And one time he finally got so mad at us because our job was, we were basically the chokers. So he was on the tractor and he had a chain hooked up to the tractor on the 3-point, except it was just a hitch on the back. It was a receiver hitch, the drawbar. And we would wrap the chain around that, wrap it around a little tree a couple times, because we were pulling out a lot of stuff that was everywhere from thumb size to maybe wrist size, maybe no more than 4 or 5 inches. And we wanted to get all the roots out and everything. So we were pulling them out. And our job was to hook that up. My dad would pull it out. We'd unhook the chain. We'd hook it to the next one. While he was pulling that one out, we had to take that tree that we had just pulling out, pull it over to a brush pile to be burned off the field. So we were dragging brush and trees. And I say trees, I mean brush. It was small stuff. But when you're just a kid, you're maybe 11, 12 years old at the time when we bought the particular property that he lived on. We were complaining, and one time he said this to us, and it stuck with us, and to this day we ask him this same question. We were complaining because we wanted to go swimming, and the job wasn't done yet, and he expected us to be there. And he says, you guys are so lazy, you stink! Just get out of here, get out of my way, you're in my way now. If you think you got it so bad, get out of here, go swimming. So we went swimming. And I remember the next day he was upset with us that we left. But to this day, we'll ask him when we do a job, and he'll be like, because he's 87 now, he'll be like, wow, he says, you guys are still doing firewood? That's bull work. That's a lot of work. That's hard. I said, well, you started us. It's your fault. And he would say something like, you can find something easier to do. I said, well, you started this. You were the one that got us going on this, because both my brothers heat their house with wood, and I don't heat my house with it. I have a fireplace and we have a fire pit and I sell wood, so I produce a lot of wood. And my dad was, one time he was asking, he says, you guys do a lot of wood. How much wood do you do? I said, well, I do about 200 full cords a year, which he says, well, that's like 600 face cords. I said, yep, that's how much it is, because we go by face cords here in Wisconsin. And he said, you know, he says, I heated with wood for 50 years, and every year we would go through anywhere between 8 and 12 face cords. I said, yeah. He said, so I figured it out. He said, in 2 years, you're producing more wood than I did in my entire lifetime. I said, yep, because I sell it. I said, that's your fault. He says, well, that's a lot of wood. I said, yep, it's your fault. He didn't get it. I was telling him that there's a reason why we work hard. My brother Ken, my brother Eric both work very hard. My sister works very hard. She doesn't cut firewood, but still we have that work ethic. We were trained from little on that it's up to you. You. No one's coming. No one's coming to help. And if they do, great. But don't depend on it. It's all on you. Find a way to make it work. Don't give up. The nose to the grindstone, which means focus on what you got to do, what needs to be done, and get it done and work until it's done. And stay at it day after day after day after day. And that's why here in the woodyard, I find days like today, it's the afternoon already. I worked all day long. But I came here because I had this idea for this video, because I thought of my dad today as I talked to him. I thought, and we were talking about firewood and work ethic, and he's got a garden now he's doing and stuff, and he still tries to cut a little bit of firewood just because he can. I think he's just trimming brush out is what he's doing. At 87, he said, his goal is to make it 3 more years. I said, well, I hope so. So he wants to live to 90. That's his goal now. And he'll probably do it. He'll probably live to be 100 because he's active and he's in good shape. So he's got some physical things. He can't work like he used to, and he's starting to kind of lose it mentally. He's got dementia, and he repeats himself all the time. And he doesn't remember stuff. Short-term memory is going, long-term memory is going. You'll talk to him and he'll say the same thing 3 or 4 times in a matter of 10 minutes, but we just kind of treat it like, oh, okay, do what you got to do, because he gave us a lot. So by having a really good work ethic, it will make you physically strong, because the more you work, the easier work is. You're not afraid of it. And that's the other thing, not being afraid. It'll make your mind right. It'll make you know that you can do a particular thing. I know several people, when they see what I do, or like even people I deliver wood to, and I'll dump just a third of a cord or a face cord in their driveway, and you know, they come out with their gloves on, and their wife comes out, she's got her gloves on, their kids will come out with their gloves on, and the dad will say something like, well, this will keep us busy the rest of the day, getting this wood from here to there and putting it in a rack. And I kind of just think to myself, oh, have fun with the wood, good luck, it'll be good exercise. And they're like, oh, thanks, I got a project to do today now. And I think to myself, I did 8 of these today by myself. I loaded 8 face cords, or it'd be almost 3 full cords, delivered them. I stack for some people when they pay me. And that's like in a half a day I'll do that, and I think nothing of it, because I've done it so much that my mind is conditioned to where it's not that hard. But yet some of my customers will look at it and they think, we got more wood than we're ever going to burn in our lifetime. And I could literally go cut and split that in half an hour. I also got something very valuable from my grandpa. Now, when I was a preteen, so 10, 11, 12, maybe even 13, 14 years old, I worked for my grandpa. My grandpa was a self-employed bait dealer. And what that means is he would catch minnows out in public land areas, in traps and in seines, and I would work with him, for him. My brothers both did too. And we would catch minnows. And that's what he did full time. Sold minnows for fishing. That was his job. He was a bait dealer. So they had a shop in their house, and they had a route he would run in northern Wisconsin, where he would go up north and deliver to actual shops that sold minnows, and night crawlers, and lures, and resorts he would go to. So he had all these different stops, and he would do it every Friday. He would leave like at 4 in the morning, and he would take his truck full of minnows, and people would order ahead of time, and he would have certain amounts that everybody would have. And I learned a lot from him what work ethic was, getting up in the morning and getting out there and getting it done and working through harsh conditions and not giving up. And I learned a lot from him in that when he would do these routes, I was always surprised when he would go and he did something I had never seen before. It was before you saw this in grocery stores. He gave out free samples. You know, you go into stores and they always got, here, try this, it's delicious. We sell it right over there. He did that way back when I was a kid. I remember we would go to a spot, say a guy ordered 500 mud minnows and 500 shiners and 500 slippery jacks, and he would have them in the buckets and he would deliver them, and the guy would say something about, yeah, we get guys asking about suckers. And he says, well, I've got some suckers in the truck. He would always ask them along. He says, tell you what, I'll give you 6 of these big ones here. They sell for $1 a piece. They were, you know, they call them musky minnows, musky bait. So they were big suckers, usually 10, 12 inches big for muskies. It's a big thing in northern Wisconsin. So he would give them a half a dozen and say, here, sell these. And he said, if you sell them, then you can just pay me later. He would do it that way. And then they would start ordering some of those also. And that was the big money bait, was the big suckers. And now I think they go for like $5, $6, $10 a piece. I don't know. I haven't bought any in a long time, but that is how it works. And then my grandpa also told us, he said, if you kids want to make some money, I've got all these routes established. My customers need night crawlers. If you guys pick, grow, farm night crawlers, I will sell them for you. So when the spring of the year came around and we would get those spring rains and the night crawlers would come out, my brothers and I would pick night crawlers until we couldn't stand up straight. We'd have a flashlight in one hand and an ice cream bucket in the other, and we would go until that ice cream bucket was full. I remember my mom coming and walking around and then driving around the neighborhood looking for us, because we would pick all over in everybody's yards. We would pick night crawlers. We got 2 cents a piece for a night crawler, and now they go for like 25 cents a piece. So we would pick all night long and get thousands of them. And I remember getting money from my grandpa, and it was cash. That was like the first cash I had as a kid. And then he started hiring us once we could carry a 5-gallon bucket full of minnows and carry a seine through the woods and seine minnows in the creeks and not spill everything. So I learned how to work with my grandpa. Now my other grandpa, he died when I was 5. My dad and I actually found him when he died. But I remember the other things I learned from him was his meticulousness of his tools. Everything had a place in his garage. Everything had a place. He had a pegboard, and the tools he painted around them, so they had an outline, so you knew right where all the tools had to go. Then all of his tools, he painted the handles with his special color paint. It was kind of a maroon color. And then he would put a yellow stripe and a green stripe around the top of the handle, and that was his mark for his tools. And he had all of his tools marked that way. So it was pretty cool. And I remember he was very meticulous, and that's how, my dad's not that way, but my uncle, who is named after my grandpa, is like that too. Everything's organized, everything's in its place, everything is very done right. I learned that from my grandpa. What I remember of him, what my grandpa has told, what my dad has told me about him, what my mom told me about him, and things I learned over the years about what he was like. He was very precise with his stuff. Stuff you learn from your parents. The good stuff is what you usually don't hear much of. Usually you hear about, oh, it's my dad's fault, it's my mom's fault, I had a rough childhood. So what? Everybody did. Get over it. Get to work. Life is hard, and then you die. So if it's so hard and you know you're gonna die, don't worry about it. Suck it up, get to work. Your mind changes when you're used to doing something at a high level or a difficult level often. You get mentally tough and physically tough. Work ethic, it's huge. It's one of the biggest things you can have as a person. It's one of the best things you can give your kids, grandkids. Teach them how to work. If you can do that, life will be easy for them. There's no reason for anybody to stand on a street corner with a piece of cardboard saying, please feed me, I need money. There's no reason. There's jobs everywhere. Everywhere. There's so much work available. There's no reason for anybody to beg. None. I know of people that are handicapped in wheelchairs. I have a friend who's a quadriplegic. That means all 4. That means from the neck down. He can barely move one arm, can't do anything with his legs at all, has hard time even talking, and he's one of the richest guys I know because he used his mind. He was in a bad car accident in college. Phenomenally smart guy. Used his mind to become an investor, and he's a money manager and has hundreds of people that come to him for advice. And he does very well. Has for a long time. There's no reason that you can't use what you've got, whatever that is. And I say that a lot on my YouTube channel when people say, oh, so-and-so's got it made, you know, they're so lucky, they live in a perfect place, or they've got the perfect situation, or they've got, you know, their wife is beautiful and on camera everybody wants to come see her. Well, use what you got. Use what you got. Everybody can do more than they do. If you listen to people that do extreme sports, your mind will be changed to what's possible. And that's that work ethic. That's that positive mental attitude. One of the guys I enjoy listening to is David Goggins. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Just watch some of his stuff. He is the definition of tough. David Goggins. Check it out. So hopefully this inspired you to get off your lazy, stinky, what was it my dad said? You're so lazy you stink. But I know you don't. But get motivated. Get out there and get it done. That's all I got for today, folks. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 5:30 a.m. with another video. Good night, Irene.